The Living Voice is a podcast exploring what shapes our voice and how our voice shapes the world. I'm your host, Yilei Lau. I'm joined by guests from diverse backgrounds as we explore voice as more than communication. We'll look at how our voice is shaped by our physical well-being, our inherited stories, the cultures and environments we move within, and the ways each of us are uniquely wired. Together, we inquire into what becomes possible when we meet our voice with kindness, awareness, and curiosity.
Well, I'm Angela, and I met Yilei a couple of years ago now, and it was quite, I think when I think back about it, the journey that took me to meeting her was it felt like pre-organised, if that makes sense. I'd been seeing a naturopath in Whanganui, and she had a flyer that had healing voices on. That's and right. I had also been seeing a reflexologist and had an experience with her where it was like my voice and my mouth was cleared because I lost my voice with the journey in my life that I have been on, where I experienced trauma as a child, so dissociated and lost the ability to be able to speak. Not literally, but was not able to stand up and be heard, be seen, and so when I received the flyer, I thought, oh, okay, this is interesting. I'm going to investigate this. And so I went along to Healing Voices, not knowing anything about it whatsoever. And for the first probably 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, I couldn't make any sounds. And that actually reinforced to me that, that it was really important for me to be there, because right. I needed to reconnect with this part of me, my voice.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And had you already been looking for voice work, or no? No, hadn't thought about it in any way, shape or form. And this is where I love how when we're on these healing journeys, the synchronistic part of it, how we're given what we need at the right time. And that's how I experienced that, and that's what I thought, sort of was happening to me with regards to that. So with that journey, and I remember you coming along and witnessing your transformation, but in your own words, like what was happening for you in those classes? Like what has it enabled you to become or say or do with your voice?
So for me, I actually didn't realise how much I had lost my voice, my ability to be able to speak up, because with the journey that I experienced with trauma as a child, I dissociated and I lost my memories. And so the journey for me started probably in my mid-30s, when things became quite intense, and it was like a calling for me to go and look at what was going on for me, because all of my life I thought I was insane. And so that journey enabled me to be able to step in 2023, I think it was, into those classes, and to actually access my voice and learn to use it. So making sounds and connecting in with energy and that sort of thing, what that did was it helped almost like to rethread, I don't know if that makes sense, but rethread everything, like in my brain and my physical body and my throat, to be able to speak.
And are you able to talk about the trauma? You know, you said there's a backstory basically of where you got to before you got to my class. Is there something you can share with the audience about what that was about?
Yeah, as a 7-year-old child, I experienced abuse within the Catholic Church, and for me to survive, I dissociated, and I lost all of my memories of my childhood. So I have little pockets of memory, like I might remember going to hospital, or I might remember something, if my sister says something to me or one of my brothers about something that happened, you know, sort of during the childhood. And then it was probably, I was about 14, 15, 16. And then I've got pockets of memories from there. But with living with dissociation, even throughout my adult life, there aren't a lot of memories, and there's like the way I sort of, when I speak, the way I see it is that I would go and do something, and then when I left, it was almost like the door would shut, so there would be no memories of being there.
Right.
And so it's been a huge journey of uncovering, and it was my body told the story. And then like meeting you and experiencing healing voices actually got the words and the sound to be able to come out, if that makes sense. And then in 2024 I had a meeting with the Catholic Church where I spoke about the journey that I had been on, and that was sort of like me facing my worst nightmare.
Wow.
And being able to verbalize, you know, sort of not the memories, but the effects that it had on my life and how my life had been stolen. So it's been incredibly powerful for me.
That's quite a big turnaround from that journey as a little child, that young child, and then disassociating and just losing parts of your life, really, memory, and to then be able to go back to that where it all started, it sounds like, and face them and speak up. Yeah. Is that where yes. And was it more, you know, how was that? Was it confrontational, or was it like an informative thing for them? Like this, well, I just like knowing where to go now. It's like that part of, did you feel strong whilst you were doing it, or were you shaking quite a lot? I can imagine a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, how did you manage this arc of being able to face your demons, basically?
It was a really interesting journey, because I participated in the New Zealand Royal Commission inquiry, and it was from there that they helped me to connect with the Catholic Institute, and then the invitation was given to me to meet with key members of the organisation to share my story. And it took me probably a good 6 months to be able to get myself prepared enough to be able to do it. And the interesting thing for me is that this journey that I've chosen to walk in this lifetime has been huge, and there has been a very big connection to art. And so for me, when I went to that meeting, I took paintings and photographs, which I had mounted onto boards, and they helped me to speak to my story. And I was met with open hearts. I was met with kindness, with compassion, and I was met by two men who wanted to hear my story, and who were sorry that, sort of my life basically had been stolen from me. So that whole experience was an amazing experience. And for now, I look at my life as before the 26th of April 2024 and after the 26th of April 2024. And it feels like I faced my worst fear and survived. And so from there, the journey has been just more of me healing, stepping up, reclaiming my voice in ways that I actually didn't know I'd lost it. It's been amazing.
It's amazing. And this is interesting, because I was going to ask you about, like, when did the art come in? Because that's also been a healing path for you. But I mean, I'm lucky to have witnessed the amazing artworks, because it like you said, it told the story for you. But it was also, I saw, healing for many other people, that they couldn't put words to things, and you had the art and the poems. But tell me, let's kind of backtrack a bit. Like, how did you has art always been in your life? Or did it come later on? Tell me about that.
Well, like, my family say to me, where did all this come from? Like, nobody in our family is artistic. And so for me, it started in 2019. I had a dream. And I dreamt the dream was of a lotus flower. And it was in my heart, and it was bursting out. And when I woke up in the morning, I thought, oh my gosh, what was all that about? And over the next few days, it wouldn't leave me alone, and it wanted me to draw it. And I'm thinking, what? I don't know how to draw. And so it just kept gnawing away at me. And so I was in counselling at that stage, and I told my counsellor about it, and she said, what does the lotus flower mean to you? And I said, well, I don't know. I don't actually even know what a lotus flower is. And she said, well, go home and have a look on Google. Yeah. And so I did. So I looked up the spiritual meaning first, and that didn't necessarily resonate. And I thought, well, okay, what's all this about? Yeah. And I thought, well, what is a lotus flower? And then I looked that up, and the lotus flower is this beauty that comes up through the mud and opens. And I thought, oh my God, that's kind of talking about me, you know, like I've come up through the shadow, and now I'm trying to open myself. And so I went to some art classes. I was living in Auckland at that time, and I went to some art classes, and I got really frustrated because I told the art teacher why I was there, and so he sat me down in front of a blank canvas, and I said, so, what do I have to do? How do I draw? And he said, what I want you to do is, he said, I want you to close your eyes, and said, and then I want you to tune in, and I want you to just make marks on the paper. And I came away from there feeling, oh man, that was a waste of time. But it was actually the biggest gift one of the biggest gifts that I've been given, because what it did was it connected me into something that's inside of me that expresses in an intuitive, abstract way, using colour and shapes and marks, whatever is wanting to come out. And then I think it was at the beginning of 2023, I had just finished a painting, and it was like it was saying to me, I want to talk, and I'm thinking, what? And so I went and got my computer and I sat down and typed up some words, had no idea what I was writing, and then when I'd finished, read them, and I thought, oh my gosh, where did that come from? And so now every painting that I do wants a voice. And so I see, not only did I find my voice, but there is something else that is coming through me that is speaking as well. And the words are about our journeys, and about giving ourselves permission to go inside of ourselves and not be afraid, although sometimes what you're uncovering is not pleasant because you're looking at shadow work. And so the art has been a huge gift, and particularly with the exhibition, it was really amazing.
The peak, as it were, of or the unfolding of the whole journey. Yeah. And did you realise that's what was happening when those images were coming through in the words? Like, yes, it was healing for you, but did you realise that it was unfolding as this step-by-step journey, almost like a program, as it were?
No idea whatsoever. If you had said to me that in 2024 or 2025 it was, I would be having my own exhibition, I would have laughed my head off. It's just, it was actually, I still think it was unbelievable, and it was really interesting how it was almost like I was being guided step by step, and I needed to get to these certain steps, and then this doorway opened with regards to doing an exhibition, and it's almost like it did feel like something else had taken over, because there was no fear, and I just kept working every day. It was long hours, just kept working every day, preparing the work, and preparing the structure of the exhibition, and then was again guided. There was two
the two parts.
The two galleries. So one gallery had all the photographs in, and basically they were representing my journey and my life. And then the second gallery had all the paintings in, and then the paintings represented the journey of coming home to myself.
Can you talk a little bit more about, I know you've got the two parts of it, but just a few examples of when you say the journey, because it was like there's the photographs and some words, and the paintings the same with the words, but they were very almost like key milestones in a healing journey. Could you give us some examples of what I've seen it, but for the viewers, so the listeners can hear.
So in the first gallery, that there were photographs which I'd had mounted onto A3 boards, and when I sat down to tune into the words that needed to come through for that, it was like it needed to be really brief and really, really simple. And so the photographs were, so just stepping back a little bit, I had been living in Auckland, and then was guided to come back to Whanganui, which is where, for me, this journey started. And
because Whanganui is where you grew up, right?
Yes.
This is where you grew up.
And so it was like I had to come back almost to the coalface to be able to open that next door. And so the first lot of photographs were of the mountains, because I really have a really deep heart soul connection with Naurahaui and Ruapehu, and so it was the first images were of the mountains, and the words were targeted at Naurahoe. She called me home. And then the next image was the Whanganui Awa, the river, and it was like the Awa called me home. And then there was an image of Whanganui, and it was like Whanganui called me home. And then there was an image in shadow of me standing on the beach, and it was like I came home. And then from there was images that covered the journey that happened to me, like sort of when I came back, the isolation, the loneliness, the separation, the dissociation, the depression. So all of the mental health, if you can call them that, issues that that I had experienced through my healing journey, but came back with more intensity because of where I was. And it was almost like I had done the previous lot of healing to be able to come back to Whanganui to do this real deep core level of healing.
And just for the listeners, those that don't have the visuals, those photographs were kind of abstract in a sense, but they were of landscapes, or you know, if it was conflict, it would be, you know, whatever the nature version of that would be. And you captured that so well, because it was so representing what was going on at that moment for you, and that's what's so powerful about that, about your voice. It was almost like they were speaking through the photos and the words and the energy really with that. And how did it feel to actually then have that been seen? Because it's been all seen in the public exhibition in Whanganui for I can't remember, 2 weeks. And quite a lot of people. And what was the response? What did you notice?
Well, first of all, it actually brings tears to my eyes just thinking about it now. But I felt really humble, really, really humble. It was so beautiful to have, like, people brought their vulnerability in there, and men brought their vulnerability in there, and it really, really, really blew me away. And in the first gallery, which is where I had the photographs, and they were naming rage and anger and dissociation, anger and depression, and people would come out of there, and I was really honoured that they came and spoke to me about their experience and what happened to them in there. And so many of them said, wow, that's my journey, and I hadn't actually seen that. You know I've experienced it, but I hadn't actually seen it, and that has, triggered me, or it's helped me to understand myself. And sort of, I had a lady that there was a group of them, grandmothers and grandfathers, that were actually getting the bus back to Auckland. They'd been in Whanganui for a bit of a holiday, and they saw the sign and came into the gallery, and these two grandmothers walked around the photograph gallery and came out, and one of them said to me, I needed to see that. My granddaughter has depression, and she said, I didn't get it. But she said, looking at those photographs,
wow,
I didn't understand the darkness that she must be in. And it was just, it was really humbling and beautiful. And like with the paintings, they took people on a different type of journey.
I was like, could you give us an insight of some of the themes that were coming through?
So with the paintings, the first one was called The Symphony of Life, And the story that told was how almost like we had organised our journey in this lifetime, and if we look, there's all of this amazing support there for us. And then there was a painting called Gestation, and that talked about how we needed to go within to be able to hold ourselves and to experience, you know, sort of what it was or what it is that's going on inside of us. And then there was birth, and that talks about this explosion of life and of us. And, you know, sort of it's up to us to give ourselves permission to really unfold what gestation was about. And then there was Who Am I? The mask, because we often wear these masks to keep ourselves hidden. And then forgiveness and the journey of forgiveness. And those two paintings actually, I received a lot of conversation around those. So for me, just to give you a little bit of context, those two paintings came after the meeting that I had with the Catholic Church.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did they fit in?
And so I probably spent about sort of 4 or 5 months pulling them together, painting them. And what they talk about, first of all, is forgiveness. And forgiveness is a journey. And then the journey of forgiveness. And that it's actually a huge journey. And it's actually, this is my perception, okay? Not anybody else's, but my perception and how I have experienced things. That it's not actually physically about going to someone and saying, I forgive you. It's actually about taking the energy inside of you and releasing yourself from the reaction that you have to whatever went down. And it took me a while to process that and to move through it. And it was really humbling to be standing in that gallery and to talk to people about that, because they wanted to understand it more. And it was really interesting. There was this beautiful man standing, and he turned around and he looked at me and he said, "Is this your work?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, big topics. And he said, and some of them really hard to look at, particularly this one. And that was forgiveness. And we had this quite in-depth conversation about it. And I said, for me, I couldn't go and say to the people that hurt me, you know, I forgive you. And I'm not sure why I didn't want to do that. But what I did was I took the energy of that inside of me and I released myself from the reaction that I had to them and to that situation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that's so interesting, because I think there's a misunderstanding. I've certainly journeyed with this forgiveness notion, because it's like some people say, oh, you're just playing lip service, like, oh, I forgive you and that's it. And then like, no. And like you said, it's quite a journey, because it sounds like, and this is something I've experienced and noticed in other works, is that there's so much identities or personas wrapped in that dynamic that happened. And it's like, who are we to almost forgive them? It's like there's the separation of the act itself versus, you know, like if you're forgiving someone, it's like, hang on, did you have a holding on them or they holding on you? So it's really interesting, because it's quite nuanced and complex, and how beautifully done it was that you had the separation of forgiveness and then the forgiveness journey for people to ponder on, to separate out. It's not I'm never going to forgive them, because I think that's what we're taught. Most of us are kind of thought, oh, you know, we have this control over the other. Go, I will never let it go.
Yeah.
I will never forgive you. And it's not like that at all from what I'm hearing you're saying. It's not like that at all. And
so holding that energy, the only person that you're hurting is yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're blocking yourself. You're holding hurt and darkness inside of you. And usually if you look at the person that lack of forgiveness is aimed at, it's not affecting them in any way, shape or form. So it's actually, from my experience, for me it was a journey of releasing myself and giving myself freedom.
Yeah.
And being able to journey, because, like for me, if I was not able to walk into a church, if I saw priests or nuns in the street, I took off. They had a real hold on me, because somewhere inside of me, this little 7-year-old child thought that they were going to die. That they were going to get hurt. So I've got
a 7-year-old was going to die. Yeah.
And I need to run. But it was the adult that was behaving like that. And so this journey of forgiveness, releasing the fear inside my body as to what was going to happen to me if I ever spoke out or did anything about it. It actually let me set me free. It opened the doorway to the prison that I had created inside my body to try and keep myself safe.
Wow. So after that, because you said you did those works, and then that's the time you had the conversation with the Catholic Church.
So I had the conversation with the Catholic Church the year before.
Okay.
And then the exhibition took me just over a year to organise, to paint and to organise.
And was that the end? I can't remember now. Was that the final part, or was there was more after that? Forgiveness.
So with the forgiveness, it's actually been a process it's actually sort of starting that journey of forgiveness and allowing myself to go inside of myself and to release me from it. What it's done is it's opened doorways inside of me that I didn't know were locked. And so the freedom that I have experienced from that has been huge. And then what that has done is it has taken me to another step in my journey, which is where I'm sitting now, and that is the journey of coming home to myself. And what that means is, I know this is a really hard word for a lot of people to understand, but to love myself. And that word can be broken down into many different descriptions, like kindness, treating myself kindly, being compassionate to myself, allowing myself to take up space, allowing myself to receive what I give. And so that has been like a huge journey, particularly over the last few months. And stepping into that process of forgiveness and releasing myself has then enabled me to step more fully into myself and open my heart, which I didn't actually realise was closed. So it's been really...
It's an ongoing journey, like you said. And did you? I can hear the listeners going, "What was the response then?" Asking, "What's the response from the Catholic Church? Did you get an acknowledgement? Was there an apology? What sort of? How did they respond?"
So in that first meeting, we had discussions, and then the Maris brothers have just publicly in New Zealand on the 9th of May, I think it was, they did an apology in Auckland, and it was a mass apology.
Wow.
to the people that were abused within their organisation. And I really, it's controversial, because some people are glad they did it and other people are not so glad. But for me, I think that it was actually a good thing, and that the more we talk about this sort of thing, the more we use our voices to speak, to say yes, no. It's so important. And for me, my interpretation of what happened within that apology is that a door has been opened for an organisation to behave differently. And to put some really big safeguards in place, so that their people that are part of their organisation don't get hurt. And sort of like, it's really huge, because for me, I had my life stolen, as did millions of other people.
Millions. Okay, so New Zealand
and worldwide.
Yeah. But do you know the numbers? Not as important, but
no,
do you know the numbers?
I don't know the numbers. But it's huge.
It is a big
deal. The abuse that has been directed at children and at adults within that organisation.
And that's so interesting, because it's like, if they've come out and I'd acknowledged it and going, yes, it was an admission, basically, yes, that's what went on, and owning their part in that. And they, because I guess as many would have, I guess the old school was trying to hide it and stuff. But was it your letter alone, or was there many people that had to come forward for them to respond?
Oh no, there's been it's been a process over many years of uncovering. And then the New Zealand Royal Commission did what they did, which was really awesome. And then sort of the Marist part of the Catholic Church took responsibility for themselves, and sort of started with the saying, I'm sorry. And like everybody that participated, and there were a lot of people that participated in that event, are at different levels of healing. Some are still sitting in their anger and rage, and others have moved on. But from my perspective, what it has done is that it has given this organisation an opportunity to do things differently, and to really look at sort of the responsibility that they have with these very, very vulnerable children, and to respect that, and to look at how they can do things differently. And moving forward, the people that have been traumatised by the organisation, it's like, what can happen now to help these people to work through their trauma? How can they be supported?
And was there a request, because I remember you mentioning it, and about your artworks? Because for me it felt like a perfect program, a guideline to help people move through those different processes, because often in when people are in that depression mode, it's like everything's glumped and you can't see clearly and separate out those parts. Like there is a place for the anger and the hurt and the rage and things, and then there's this, like you said, it's almost like this rebirth, and in that there's also the forgiveness. Like, is that going to be taken on tour, if you like, or will, or more to be, for other people to see? Because it's like 2 weeks here in Whanganui, and it's like, wow, needs to be up permanently. From my point of view.
Yeah, I would really like to explore how I can open some more doorways to take people on that journey through art and through the words that come through for the paintings. I was really honoured because the organisers of the apology asked if I would put some of my art at the event.
Okay, yeah,
and
nice.
so there was art there representing, there were paintings that were quite dark that were representing parts of bodies that had been hurt, and anger and rage, but then there was also the the journey when we allow ourselves and give ourselves permission to go inside of ourselves and to look at the hurt, the trauma that a huge percentage of us are carrying, and to open those doorways to release ourselves from it. When you start to come out of that, there's also great beauty in the question, who am I? And then from there you've got the reveal of who you are and the birth of who you are, because although if you've experienced trauma, that it's not who you are, it's the journey that you have walked. And from my experience and my understanding of what has happened to me is that it's almost like at a cellular level, there has been a release of some pretty heavy duty dark shit, right?
Yeah.
And the way I see that transforming in my life is that it falls down into the earth that I stand in, and it fertilizes the earth. So it feeds my awareness, it feeds my empathy, it feeds my understanding. But I don't react from it anymore. But I am able to look and listen and respond in a way that I remember. Okay, I'm standing in this fertilizer now. I know that journey. And if I can say anything to people that are walking that journey, is that for me it was like I needed to give myself permission to go on that journey, because there was something inside of me driving me, because I choose life, and I've lived a big part of my life in shadow, and I want to live a big part of my life in the light. But you do need to take responsibility for yourself, and you do need to give yourself permission to go there and to reach out and choose the people that can assist you in that journey. And one of the things that I really noticed, and I think I touched on it a little bit earlier, was that when you give yourself permission, when you choose to take that responsibility to go on that healing journey, it's amazing how people, healers, come into that journey for whatever length of time that they're supposed to be there. And that is what happened to me with voices, with healing voices.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You're a great example of what has shaped your voice, which was the traumatic events in your experience with the Catholic Church, and it probably goes beyond that if we're for those that go into the the ancestral stuff, to how your voice has shaped the world through your art, through your sounding, through your expressing, through your words, and you have many mediums: the paintings, the poetry, and the cards, and you're continually creating, but still guided by. And this is guided by. That's one other question. It's like, who else? This other energy that seems to be guiding you. Do they have a name, or do you just leave them as like it just feels right for you in terms of, now paint this or do that or put these words on the paper? Yeah. Who or what is that?
Well, that's a big question.
Or do we leave it like there's a there's a force that's coming?
It's well, like for me, I'm very aware of the team that walks with me, and it's a huge team, and it's a non-physical team, and the love, the support, the feeling of being held is amazing, and the guidance, and I think it was about 2007, 2008, I first became aware of this energy, and I had no idea what it was, and then it started sort of like there was almost like something was talking to me, or someone was talking to me, and I feel very honoured that I have this huge non-physical team, and the guidance and the journey with that has been amazing. And they do have a name. They're called Genoa, but that name was given. It's not necessarily representing anything. It was given to me because I needed a name.
Yeah.
I in the beginning I couldn't understand what was going on. So it's a huge collective of beings. And it was very interesting, if I can just share the story at the exhibition. We'd spent Thursday and Friday setting up for it, and it was opening on the Saturday, and on the Friday night was the first time. There was about an hour and a half I had there all by myself, sort of late afternoon, and it was like somebody was standing beside me and saying, "Now come and walk," and I had to visit every single photograph and acknowledge it, and every single painting and acknowledge it. And then I went and sat down, and I was thinking, okay, so I've got the opening tomorrow night on Saturday night, and I've got, sort of all these people coming for the opening. And what am I going to say? Because if you knew me before then, I'm this structured, detailed person that if I had to speak at something, the speech would have been done weeks before. And I'm sitting there the day before thinking, what am I going to talk about? And so I was sitting there and sort of saying, what am I going to talk about? I can't believe it's Friday night. Tomorrow night everybody's going to be here. What am I going to say to them? and what's going on? I've got no butterflies. I'm not nervous. What's happening to me? And then there was like this huge conversation, and it was like, Angela, you're part of a team, and hence the reason no butterflies like you normally do have, no nerves, because you are part of a team. There's a huge team that has brought this exhibition together. You're the physical part of it, just the physical part of it. But there's a huge amount of, energy behind everything. And it's like, oh, okay. But what about the speech? What am I going to say? and they said, well, get a card out. So I got an A6 card and write down opening, thanks, health and safety.
Like the practicals.
About the painting.
Yeah.
Acknowledging Yile, because you did the most amazing sound bath. That was just incredible, and everyone loved that. and thank, and then ask everybody to go and eat and walk around the gallery. And it was like, so there was like 6 lines written on this card, and it was like, oh my gosh, I've never done anything like this before.
And from what I remember and where I was standing, you did so well, and so it was so fluid and confident, and you took centre stage. And that's something I noticed, because I normally tuck myself away in a corner, but I noticed you really stepped forward to be seen, and there was no hesitation. Like you said, you have your team. And just for those that are questioning, go, how do question the team or the voices in their heads? Because some people have other voices in their heads. Like, did you ever kind of question, like, oh, who are you? Why should I listen to you? Was it more of a feeling or sensation or unknowing? Because there's any part going, why am I hearing voices?
Yeah. So I probably used slightly the wrong language there. I don't hear voices in my head. It's like a deep inner knowing. It's like, gosh, how do you explain that? It's like this really deep inner knowing that, okay, this is the next step. It's like someone has got their hand in my back and is just guiding me to the next place.
And gently, it feels more
very gentle.
Yeah, rather than directing.
And there's no power or control.
No power and control.
No, it's and if I don't want to do it, I don't have to do it. And there's nothing happens with that. But for me, it feels I'm because I'm looking always for my next step, because I want my life. I want to reclaim my life. I want to have this amazing life in the physical form before I go anywhere else.
Yeah.
And so for me, it feels like I've just got this big cloak wrapped around me, and it's like I'm walking with a team, and it's a very beautiful feeling. It's not like I'm having a conversation in my head or anything like that. It actually feels like it's more in my heart space.
Thank you for clarifying that. And it's it's interesting, because before we started the record button, we both had tickly throats. And so I'm just going to check in with that. And I always ask the questions like, is there anything else that's sitting here you feel that is required to be expressed in this session, in this interview?
I think the only other thing that I would say is that this journey that we're all on, this journey of life, it's about, well, for me, and this is my perception of my journey. It's been about coming home to myself, and those words coming home sort of sound quite simple, but it's actually a ginormous journey. And if you allow yourself to take that journey, the gifts from it feel like miracles. And when I look back on who I was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago, that person just doesn't exist. I was so caught up in fear and locked in a prison that I didn't realise how much I wasn't experiencing life.
Wow. Yeah.
And so, sort of I can see that this next part of my journey is about really embracing myself and accepting and allowing myself and allowing more of the voice to come through. And like we talk about voice, it's not only the words that come out of your mouth, it's the words that come out of your fingers, it's the words that come out of the paintbrush.
Exactly.
It's expression. And I think the more we share and express who we are with each other, because we're all different, but we're all the same. And your difference is a gift for me, just like my difference is a gift for you. And so the more we step into ourselves and allow ourselves to be seen, to be heard, the more we express ourselves, the bigger gift we are for humanity, and the bigger the ripple effect we have with the change that in how we can affect energetically what's going on in our world.
Absolutely beautiful, and I wholeheartedly agree. But I would, because it's like work with voice. Yeah. Wow. You've answered my questions as well without me even asking. It's interesting because it's like, the other thing that was occurring is that we have this energetic language as well, and that you're picking up on some of the questions I had brewing for you. So how can people connect with you and your artworks?
Well, I've got a Facebook page, Angela Dickson, Intuitive Artist, so they could connect with me through that. And I'm in the process of putting together a website.
Fantastic. We look forward to that. And I'm so excited about what's going to come next for you. And wow, just how it's all unfolding. And it sounds like there's definitely more to unfold for you. Thank you so much for spending time with us to share your story. Very inspired, and I think super excited.
Thank you. I just really would like to honour you, because you're just like, I find you a really amazing person, and the contribution that you give to humanity is really, really huge.
Thank you. Thank you. Big glow up here all round. All right, until next time.